Okay guys, so this video is going to be about rear caster, but first I'm just going to give you a little update here while I'm sitting here. I'm waiting for wood glue to dry, and we're building these bed frames. I'm using a thinner rail on the rail. It's going to be out, getting in and out of the van, getting in and out of the bed. That way you can sit on the bed and not hit your thighs on it and put your legs to sleep. But the back rail I'm still going to leave thicker, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like a hybrid. There's two thick rails and two thin rails, and I also want to put the thin rail down by the feet. You'll see once I get it done. I'm not going to get into that right now. But anyway, so one of the users, I'm sorry I forgot your name, wants to know about rear caster and wants me to explain why. He wants me to help him visualize what's going on with the rear caster. So I'm going to point the camera this way, and I'm going to introduce a cobalt saw. Now I want you to imagine that this is a tire, and the tire goes around, okay? And I want you to imagine we're looking at the car from the rear, and we're on the driver's side. So Corvettes have their tires tilted like this. The camber's tilted like this, so you're riding on the inside tread here by my thumb, and the outside tread is cambered up, right? So let's first and foremost talk about what happens when you hit the accelerator in a Corvette. When you hit the accelerator in a rear-wheel drive Corvette, or even all-wheel drive Corvette, the rear control arms are pulled forward by the tires. So the tires start spinning, and they're pulling the car forward, so the rear control arms flex like this, okay? And then let's talk about what happens when you hit the brakes in a Corvette. The control arms are flexed backwards, both the front and the rear control arms, but we're talking about rear caster. Rear caster is the most sensitive measurement on a Corvette, C7 or C8. Now the C5 and C6 did not have rear caster adjustment. So if you have an OEM car and you don't have some super fancy race car suspension set up on the thing, it is what it is. You're not going to be able to adjust what I'm talking about right now. So the rear caster, what is it? Okay, so this is camber, guys. Toe is you preset the tires pointed in, or you preset the tires pointed out. Now the toe changes under acceleration and braking, right? This axis that we're moving about right now is the rear caster angle. Meaning, if your rear caster was tilted like this, I'm going to exaggerate. Now, when your toe is flexed forward and backwards, it goes on this plane instead. This is now your rear caster plane. Think of it like that. Your plane of swing is your rear caster angle, okay? So here we started out at 0 with the horizontal, which is good. That's where you want it, exactly to 0 to the 10th. I mean, you want it 0.0, and if your gauge goes to another 0, as close to 0.00 as you can possibly get on the C8 and on the C7, understand it's a 90-degree angle that the bar tool hooks up to the hub for you to measure it. And I highly suggest you use a regular angle gauge finder that can be bought at Lowe's. And I actually have one somewhere. I'm trying to think where it's at, but maybe after a bit I'll show a video of it. But anyway, so then if the rear caster's this way, it flexes this way, okay? So you say, well, what's the big deal if it flexes that way? So when this flexes up, look at what happens. The angle becomes steeper. Your camber angle just became steeper, okay? And when you come down, look at what happens. What's the lowest point of our tire now? The outside tread. Something changed. Originally we were on the inside tread, and somehow so here we're on severe inside tread, here we're on inside tread, here we're middle of the tire, here we're on the outside tread of the tire. Okay? Guess what? If this side, we're still on the driver's side, let's say that this side had the camber to where it's going to swing in the downward direction. Meanwhile, we're going to swap over to the passenger side, okay? And let's say that the passenger side was tilted in such a way that it was going to go in the upward direction. Even if it's by 0.1, 0.1. So this one's going to go upwards. So you're going to maintain on the inner tire, but this one over here is going to go downwards. So instead of staying on the inner tire, you're gonna go to the outside of the tire. This is steering from the outside of the top of the car, which has more leverage than the passenger side, which is still steering from the inside. You follow me? Okay, hopefully you do. The tire is a pretty wide fucking tire. You guys know how much force it has when your tram line, the tram line track, whatever the damn word is, when you're on deep grooves coming to a stoplight or the dump trucks stop a lot. There's those big grooves and it tries to bully the front wheels on a C7 Z06 or C7 ZR1. The C8 isn't as bad, but those C7s, man, those big front tires, they'd really bully you around if you remember right. So anyway, hopefully by now you're starting to understand it's like being in a forklift. You're in a rear steer car now when your rear caster isn't set perfectly symmetrical and perfectly right. Okay? You don't want this swinging up or down in either direction. You want it staying flat. 0.0 degrees rear caster. Some guy was like, well, why don't you just roll your rear caster positive? I think is what he said. First of all, it's got to be symmetrical. So this whole, you just roll it positive and who cares? If you're going to make it symmetrical, why not make it 0.0 so there's no problem? So the whole premise behind, why don't you just roll it positive and who cares? And he's got a Viper. And here's the thing, guys. Vipers in general are death traps. And I'm not just saying that. I drove them a lot when I was younger in my teens. And I knew it don't get me wrong, I was a great driver at 16 years old. Like, I'm just being blunt, guys. I was outrunning cops at 16 years old. 15 years old is when I got my first cop chase. But the point is, and I got away. The point is, actually, I was probably 14. No, I was 15. I definitely didn't have my driver's license yet. But anyway, my dad left the C5 red convertible with a tan top in the driveway while they went to Hawaii. I said, if you leave that car here, I'm going to drive that car to school every day. And he left the keys on the counter and said, go for it. He wanted me to get in trouble. It's a long story, but it's a crazy relationship. It's one of the good stories about my stepdad. They trusted me in very weird ways. Okay, we'll just put it that way. He knew I could drive, but he also wanted me to get in trouble, but I never did in that regard. So anyway, on that story. I knew at a very young age, 16, 17 years old, that Vipers were death traps. I could just sense it. Now with the newer generation, Gen 5 Vipers, whatever they are, with the SRT, whatever the thing was, the ACR, I mean, that cool race car, they probably got it where you can adjust them now. But the point is, why in God's name, if you're going to make them symmetrical to the 10th of a degree, wouldn't you just do 0.00 and set the car up for track use? This is for track use. There might be some drag guy out there who says, oh, if I set it this way, it sets a slightly better drag time. Okay, I'm not getting into that. I'm talking about when you're going to put the car into a drift around a turn, what's the best way to have your rear caster, 0.00. All right? Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you guys understand why rear caster is so important now. So when people tell you, rear caster only applies to cars that have rear steering, the back wheels do steer under acceleration and braking, wide open throttle and braking. The back wheels are steering because things flex. And Randy Popes can't tell you guys this. So next time you see Randy Popes and you're like, isn't that Brandon Byers guy such a mindless piece of shit? Or next time you see Misha over in Germany, isn't that Brandon Byers guy at Vet Titan such a mindless piece of shit? And they say, yeah, he's an idiot. Say, yeah, and you know what? That idiot knows more about fucking cars than you guys do. Put it in perspective. You can call me Satan all you want, but you guys are even below the bar even further, okay? I'm just being blunt. You see what I'm saying? You can call me stupid all you want. You guys are dumber. See ya.